It's war.
Welcome home. Welcome back to War. We're all recovering. This is the place where we talk about the wars people fight in silence. And today, this one right here, this is about survival, loss, addiction, and rebuilding your life when everything has fallen apart. Today, we're sitting down with John Carter. At 22 years old, he was a rising enforcer in the mafia until a point blank gunshot to the back of his head changed everything. Doctors said he would never walk again, never talk again, but he got back up. Even today, with 9 bullet fragments still in the skull, he fought through disability, depression, addiction, prison. Now owns Titanium Health and Fitness in Brookline, Massachusetts, helping people rebuild their lives same way he rebuilt his. Author of Trigger to Change. I love that name, by the way. Gave a TED Talk, and most importantly, a man who understands what it means to lose everything and still find a way forward. John Carter, welcome to War. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you.
Awesome, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So let's go straight into it, shall we?
You got that, my friend.
Okay, so take us back to that moment. 22 years old, moving the way you were moving in life, and then a point blank gunshot to the back of your head. What do you remember about that day?
Okay, so I'm gonna start off at the beginning. Why I got into the situation, my upbringing.
Okay.
I was raised in an unconventional childhood. My father was in the mob and the mafia. And so I love my dad, and I wanted to be like him. I mean, he was the best dad. Never missed a ball game, always there for me, a great dad. He never brought his outside business into the family. So I had no clue when I was a child. I just knew that I loved him, and I wanted to be like him. And I watched him with the guys around him, and I still didn't know what he was doing, but he had all the guys around him, so I wanted to be like him. So when he died, I wanted to wear his shoes, but I was not his size. So immediately I found myself in a world of trouble. This man, instead of paying me a gambling debt he owed me, decided to shoot me in the back of the head and leave me for dead.
Wow.
But I survived that. And that was the easiest part of my story as my life spiraled out of control with depression, drug addiction, gambling, and even prison stay. And that's what happened to me.
And I love when you said that you wanted to wear his shoes, but they weren't your size. I love that. It's perfect. So you wake up, you're being told you'll never walk again, you'll never talk again. You know, that's not just physical, that's identity being ripped away. So what went through your mind when you realized your life was never going to be what it was?
Well, beside the bullet going through my mind, I spent 90 days in a coma. So I went down and I didn't know what happened to me. And Stryker, the whole 90 days of this coma was a dream. And it was the craziest moment of my life. This dream was vivid and real. It wasn't like a regular dream. Like this happened in 1992, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was so vivid. It was real. It was one long life that I lived in this dream. Now, the midst of this dream, we were in a hospital. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I remind you, it was a dream. And I was chained to our bed, and every day they would come and get us all and get us into a swimming pool. And the winner of the race got to go home. And I kept losing and losing and losing. And finally, this is the first time I said it in my life. I said, I quit. That's it. I'm not doing this no more. It hurt so bad to get into the pool. That night, an old man sat in my bed who I have no idea who it was. I have no recollection of him at all. And he said, John, you're not going to quit. I'm going to coach you, I'm going to guide you, and you're not going to quit. Every day, he would take me down to our pool, and he would train me. And I couldn't believe it. Now it's the day of the big race. He gets me down to the pool. He gives me this big pep talk. I remember swimming like a bat out of hell. I touched the wall, and I woke.
Wow. That sounds amazing. That sounds kinda like a near-death experience in a way,
Oh
and
my goodness, it was
yeah,
crazy.
right.
No, it was I wrote all about this in my book. It's a long dream, and to get into it, it's really crazy.
Trust me, I understand. I feel you 100%. And that old God, my friend, sounds to me like that was God. He guided you
That
back
that
to
that
life.
that's what I call that's what I think it was.
Yes, yes.
Now, I did 90 days in the coma and another 6 months on top of that in the hospital, so a total of 9 months. And I
Wow.
was around people, I was feeling good. Now today I get discharged from the hospital, and I go home to a basement apartment, and I was alone. Talk about depression. It was awful.
Mm,
So I started eating and eating and eating, and before I knew it, I was adding alcohol to it, and now I added cocaine to it. Now I'm 330 pounds, sitting in a wheelchair, addicted to cocaine. I thought my life was over, but I could not afford my habit. So my bright ideas, after just getting shot in the head, I decided to become a drug dealer. So I become this drug dealer. I'm sitting in a wheelchair, dealing drugs, supporting my habit. I was a mess, but the police did not find this too amusing. So immediately, it didn't last long. Immediately, they kicked in my door. They come storming in, about 10 cops, and my life was so awful. Striker, I looked, I said, it's over. I felt relief. I can remember the cop look at me as I was in my wheelchair and I was smiling a little. And he said, "What's wrong?" He said, "You're in a lot of trouble here. You're I said, "Sir, you just don't understand how bad it is."
right.
So they arrest me, they take me to jail, but I bailed out. Now I'm sitting in the parking lot of the police station with my brother-in-law, weighing 330 pounds, in a wheelchair, no money, no drugs, nowhere to go. I was a lost soul, broken. My brother-in-law said to me, "You gotta stop with getting sober." It's not like I had a lot of options, you know. So I said, "Okay." And he took me to my first detox. And I went there, and after a few days, my head started clearing up, and I started liking it. I was around people, around social workers. I was not alone anymore. I liked it. I knew I wanted to go further with my treatment. So I had to apply to a halfway house. From detox, you go to a halfway house, but you have to be accepted. So there I am. I go to this halfway house. I'm being interviewed to be accepted by the executive director of the halfway house. So I'm sitting in the office, and here she comes walking in. I can see there's something wrong. She's a little unbalanced. She sits down and she proceeds to tell me her story. Now, she's been sober for 20 years. This was in 1992. She proceeds to tell me how she was in a cocaine induced accident and she almost died. She was in a wheelchair for years. And I can remember looking at her, I was in awe. Striker, the wheelchair was hell. I couldn't believe this woman got out of that chair. Couldn't believe it. This woman was totally awesome. She's actually the woman who wrote the foreword in my book. I'm still very good friends with her. She saved my life. But anyways, I loved her so much, and I was scared. I just came from being arrested. I was nervous. I was in a wheelchair. This woman was my God. I listened to every word she said. Meetings, this, that, whatever she said, it was golden. But just because you get sober does not mean all your problems go away. I still have this court case hanging over my head.
Man.
So I remember Dad driving me to court, and I said to myself, I have Dad by my side. This is my first offense. I'm in a wheelchair. This judge is definitely going to have leniency on me. That's what I thought. So I roll up in front of the judge. I remember him looking down at me. He was in his 80s. And he said, "Mr. Carter, we are not going to discriminate in this court," he said. "You will get the same sentence any drug dealer gets in my city. And he gave me 10 years.
Wow.
And at the time, I was so mad, but that all changed to being very grateful, and I'll explain that. But it all changed. But I was so mad. I was saying to myself, I'm going to prison with a state prison with murderers. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm an easy target.
Right,
But
right.
Dad looked at me. She said, John, a lot of people in your shoes would run. She said, face your problems. You're not alone. We will help you. So she was my God. So what do? Right after prison, I went. I thought I was this big, tough guy. Listen, when those big metal doors slammed shut and I was in a cell no bigger than your bathroom, and I'm saying 10 years of this, I cried like a baby, like I was lost. Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting, and this is where fitness came into my life. The next morning, 3 guys enter my cell. And I said, oh, I'm an easy target. I'm in trouble here. But remember, my father was in that life, so he had friends. These guys said to me, they're friends of your dad's, and we're here to help you. I was like, and we're going to start by getting rid of that wheelchair. You will not use that wheelchair in this prison. We don't care if we have to carry you.
Did you
Striker,
believe him?
I was skeptical. Striker, for months, every chance they got, they took me to the prison gym. I was getting stronger and stronger using that chair less and less. And who would have thought 3 convicts in prison would have taught me this? Now, this is where I knew I wanted to continue in fitness. I always felt alone my whole life. Even when I was with people, I felt alone. Now I'm in a small 6x6 cell, and I felt good, and I couldn't understand why. And this is where I did my investigations, and I learned how endorphins get released into your blood by working out. I felt phenomenal. I couldn't believe how good I felt. But this is where, when you're in prison, you get into a little clique and you hang out with certain people that you think are doing well. But recidivism in prison is rampant. And I was naive. I didn't realize this yet. But I didn't see this guy for a long time. And finally, I seen him again. I said, where'd you go? What happened to you? He said, oh, I made parole. And I didn't understand. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I made parole. They let me out because I wanted to use drugs and have a dirty urine. I failed and they put me back in here. And he smiled. And I can remember looking right at him. And I wasn't in any position to be talking to anybody. So I looked at him. I said, how could you smile about that? I would be so upset. I'd be under my cot in my cell for a year crying. I said, I went back to my cell, and my father taught me a lot of lessons. A lot of lessons, and they're all in my book. But I remember looking up at him in heaven, praying to him. I'm saying, Dad, please help me here. I need help. I don't want to come back. And I can remember a lesson he taught me. Fail to plan, plan to fail. I said, oh my God, I'm making a freaking plan here. I am not coming back here. So immediately I get on the phone and I call Deb at the halfway house. And she says, I've been waiting for this call. She says, you're not alone. Of course we'll help you. Thank God, because I was 32 years old. I got out of prison with $100, 100 and a bus ticket. What would my chances be if I went back to my hometown with $100? I'd still be at the bar if I was lucky. I would not be here with you. So thank God I got on that bus. I went back to the halfway house. So Deb could re-enter me in society. And I got a job. I was loving it. But this second time at the halfway house was so much harder than the first time. The first time before prison, I was scared. I had debt. I had this court case. Usually was not on my mind. It was getting out of trouble. Now I'm 7 years sober. I'm buffed. I'm not in a wheelchair no more. I know it all. Dad says go to 3 meetings. Huh? She don't know what she's talking about anymore. I might do one. We'll see. She says, do not go home without your sponsor or help. You're not allowed to. I said, yeah, whatever. I go, right, well, I do right home. But your friends don't care. Your friends don't care if you're sober. They don't understand what it's like. They pull the drugs out, they're right in front of me. And by the grace of God, I did not use. And I went back to that halfway up. And I can remember we had a meeting that night. It was my turn to talk. I broke down and I cried and I cried and I cried. And that's when Deb said to me, she says, I wouldn't try that again. She said, but this shows that you really do want to stay sober. I can remember Deb saying, everybody in this room, there's about 35 of us, everybody in this room that wants to stay sober, raise your hand. Of course, everybody raises their hand. There's now the truth. One of you is going to make it. And that's the reality of it. That's the odds. It's like 1 out of 32 people, and
Was that a NA meeting or AA meeting?
a meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the way it is. It's tough.
You know what it is, John? Real quick, I don't mean to cut you off, but a lot
You
of
go
people
right ahead.
don't make it is because I learned this too, because I went to NA and AA. When you become sober and then you relapse, you become sober for a while and then you relapse, your body is not used to it anymore. And then you go back into the hard drugs and everything like that. And then it takes your life, because your body's just not used to
I've
it
had
anymore.
I've had 2 brothers overdose from drugs and died.
Right, that's what I wanna get into right now. I wanna, cause
No,
that part is
let me
heavy.
let me let me tell you this. My oldest brother, I was in prison, and
Mhm.
he was sober for 5 years.
Right.
And my mom would come up to me and she said, "John," she'd visit me, and she said, "John, your brother relapsed and he's not doing well. You need to
Mm,
talk to him." So I got on the phone and I called him and I said, "George, I can get you help right now. I can get you into a detox right now because I had connections with Deb and the whole. It's very difficult to get help, but I could have done it like this." And he said, "Well, I have work." He said, "I got these things to tie up. I got odds and ends. I'll go at the end of the week." That was the last time I ever talked to him. That night, I got a phone call saying that the chaplain wants to speak with you. So I knew something was wrong. And that's why I got the phone call. Your brother died. And it was
oh,
Mother's
man.
Day. On Mother's Day.
Mm.
So any of you in the audience, don't take any chances. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Take it now. Take it when you got it. You can do this.
Right,
I
definitely.
did it. You can do it. You did it. They can do it.
Right. Yes, sir. So that, you lost 2 to addiction and another to heart disease,
Yeah.
That's repeated trauma, Talk to me about that. What has it been like carrying that?
It's awful. I lost my oldest brother to a heroin overdose. Then 4 years ago, I lost my youngest brother to a fentanyl overdose. And 2 weeks ago, I lost my final brother to heart problems.
Mm, I'm so
And
sorry about that.
thank you. And it's very hard. It's very difficult to think my father had 4 sons, and the last one breathing is the one who got shot in the head. That's a sad thing. But you know what? I knew that my story had purpose. Now I really know it needs to be told. You
Yes.
know, it really needs to be told. People don't have to go through this shit, you know. And when I was getting sober, hearing inspirational true stories of success was what it took for me to get sober. It was awesome. I still listen to it. I love hearing people's experience, strength, and
And
hope.
hope.
I
Yes.
love
Yes,
that.
sir.
Love that.
Yes, sir.
I talk about relapse a lot, and I talk about relapse a lot in my book. I feel, now this is just my opinion, that we seem to forget where we came from. I watch a lot of people with years and years of sobriety get everything back and lose it real quick because
Mhm.
one problem this big. And I was taught by sharing your story, you're never gonna forget. You keep talking about it, so it's right up front. I'm not gonna forget how bad it was 30 years ago when I went to detox, how I felt. Oh, if you stop talking about it, oh, it wasn't that bad. I might be able to do it again. I got another run in me, and it's all a lie. It's all a lie.
And not only that, sharing your story could help somebody else out,
Uh,
you know?
Amazon, my book on Amazon has 142 five-star reviews. And coming from a man that got his GED in state prison, I'm damn proud of that. I'm damn proud of that,
You should be, you should
you
be.
know. And to hear the people, I mean, I read all my reviews. I read them all. I love it. To hear how it's helping them get over it. I mean, everybody has problems. Just because your problems might be different than mine, but your problems are real to you. They're your problems. You have to fight and get over them.
And John, you said something real powerful to me, that they thought they had time, that they could wrap things up before getting help, and they never made it. What do you want people to understand about that mindset?
Oh, my goodness. You always think you have tomorrow. Everybody thinks they have tomorrow, and it ends like that. Boom, it's gone. So we're not guaranteed anything tomorrow. If you want your stuff back, you want your life back, you want your kids back, your life back, your health back, take control of it. Don't wait till tomorrow because you might not be guaranteed tomorrow. You might not like what tomorrow brings. So
Yes,
do it today.
yes, yes. And somebody watching this right now, and they thinking, I'll get help later. What do you want to say to them directly?
Directly. What I want to say to them, listen, Striker, any of your audience has any kind of issue or problem, I love. You put out all my information. I love helping people. They can contact me. I'll be more than happy to guide them through any problem they have. And I love that. And just don't quit. Don't never give up, Striker. Never give up.
Never give up. I like that.
Never
Thank
give
you.
up.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's stay right here, because this might be the most important part of this whole conversation. There's never a perfect time to get sober. Never. So let me ask you this. What finally made you stop waiting? And why is right now the only time that actually matters?
Well, what did it was me getting arrested, and that was a godsend to me. That was God saving me because I was a mess. I was totally, totally a mess, and God saved me from that. Life is funny. Life is so funny. We're not guaranteed anything, Striker. We're not
Hmm.
guaranteed a single thing. So you take it by the horn, take that bull by the horns and take control. You can do it. That's what I
Yes.
say.
Yes.
It, we can do it. And I always say that I'm never alone. I walk with a 200-pound Great Dane service dog. I
Wow.
run, I run a charity called Mobility Danes of New England. We raise, train, and donate Great Danes to mobility impaired, and they change lives. So the proceeds of my book are going to help the farm, which is awesome.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
oh,
You mentioned earlier about your mentor, Deb. Walk me through that journey. You said uh, she was told she never drive again after being paralyzed, and she taught herself how to drive a manual Mustang. That kind of story changes how you see the world. That's amazing. What
that
did her
was amazing.
example? What did her example do for you mentally?
When she told me that, well, when I seen that Mustang in the driveway, and she
Mhm.
told me that to stand it, and she couldn't even move her left arm, she did everything with her right arm.
Right. I'm trying to picture that.
And she said to me, she said, "The reason why I drive that is because the doctor said I'll never drive again." I said, "Oh, really? Not only will I drive, I'm gonna drive a standard."
Hmm.
And when she showed me that, that just said to me, anything is possible.
That's proof.
I was in awe. When I seen her, I was simply in awe. I could not believe she got out of that wheelchair. She's driving that car, and Stryker, she was glowing, glowing. She was so happy. I remember I was a broken soul in a wheelchair, and I said,
Right.
"I want this. I want what she has right
Yes.
here, and she wants to give it to me." She don't wanna hoard it. She wants to give it to me and help people, and that's what she said to me. She said, "One of the reasons why you don't have kids," she said, "you're all my kids." She says, "I want to give you all what I have. I want you all to live a good life." And she really meant that.
Yeah.
You know, she really meant that. When I seen what she can do, like I said, it was a power of example. Give me that hope. I said, "Wow." And that stuck with me. I knew even when I was in jail and I was away from her, when I thought I couldn't do something, I said, "Well, Dad did it. Why can't I lift that weight? Dad's driving a standard. Who am I to say I can't? There's no
Right.
I can't here." Dad
Right.
didn't say that. If Dad
Right.
ever heard me say I can't, she would lose respect for me. She always said, "You can do anything. There's nothing you can do.
Yup.
Nothing you can't do," I should say.
That was the proof in the pudding right there. And did you ever go back and see the doctors that said you would never walk or talk again?
Actually, the surgeon who saved my life,
Mhm.
the brain surgeon, I've obviously, I wouldn't seen him. I bought a bottle of Dom Perignon. And then he said, you know, what he said to me, he said, "I was only here doing the work." He said, "God
Right.
is doing it through my hands.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything special. It was him. Thank him. I'm
Mhm.
only doing my job.
Right.
Thank
Right.
him."
It's amazing.
Um,
So I gather you said it that, fitness saved your life, not once, but multiple times. Break that down for us. How did fitness become more than just working out?
when I was in prison and I seen how good I felt, I knew I wanted it. So when I got out, I kept looking for a job in the fitness industry, and I kept being denied and denied and denied. But remember, I was with Deb, and she always said, "Do not quit. Don't give up. Just keep knocking on doors. It's gonna happen." Kept not, and I kept getting denied, denied. But Deb could give me the hope. So I didn't get discouraged. I was getting frustrated, but not discouraged to stop. My friend said to me, "I'm going to work out. Would you want to come and have a little training session?" So we went to Boston Sports Club, and it was on my list, but I just not went there to apply yet. And when you go to an interview, usually dressed up pretty nice, so they couldn't see my physique. And I walk with a very strange gait, and I slur my words, so they really wouldn't give me the time of day. But
Mm.
now I'm going to work out, and I'm in my muscle tee. I have a pretty good physique, so my gait and my slur are not so apparent.
Right.
So I spot the manager, and I'm watching him, and he's a big guy, big muscular guy. I said, "Ooh, I might want to go see him." But then I seen how nice he was, smiling and giving people towels, just a very happy guy. I said, "You know what? I'm going to see him." And I got the courage up, and I went for it. And he said, "I got a few minutes," he said, "We can sit down in my office and have a little talk." Well, that few minutes was an hour and a half conversation about my story. And he says, Can you start tomorrow?" He says to me. Now, I still didn't tell him about the prison. I told him everything else, but I didn't tell him about prison yet. And I said, "Jesus, here we go." But I said, "You know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to go for it." So I explained to him all about prison without batting an eyelash. He looks at me and says, "Okay, can you start tomorrow?" He says, "Did you just hear me say I was a felon?" He said, "First of all," he said, "thank you for being honest." He says, "Second of all," he says, "I just wish my mom could hear you talk." She had passed away a couple years prior to this of alcoholism. And he said
Mm.
to me, "If you heard you talk, there might be a chance you'd still be here today."
Mm.
So he gave me the job, and I go home, and I get a phone call. He says, "John," it's my boss. He says, "A morning guy called in, and I'm an hour away. I can't get there in the morning. Can you do it?" I says, "Of course." I said, "I don't know what I'm doing here." He gave me the combination, and I remember saying to myself, saying, "This guy just gave an ex-felon who you don't even know yet the combination to his hard work business." I said, "Oh my goodness." So I go in there and I open up. Oh, it's 6:30, people start coming in. When you join Boston Sports Club, you get what's called a PFW, a private free workout. And you get that when you sign the gym, you get that with a trainer. So the guy comes walking in and he's looking for the guy I'm replacing. And he says, he has an appointment for a training session. So I said, "I can help you." And he starts telling me how he has diabetes and he's overweight and he has a disc problem. And I'm trying not to show how nervous I am, but I'm
Mhm.
trembling inside. I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "We can have a nice little short workout." So I bring him to the floor and I give him a nice little workout. Now it's time for me to sell him on a package. That's my job as a trainer. When those PFWs come in, you try to turn them into your client. So I hand him a menu, and there's all the prices on it. He says, "Oh, I'll take one of these 50 packs." It's like it's $4,000.
Mhm.
I said, I'm panicking inside. I had $4,000 my first hour on the job. Now I see my manager come in, and I run to him. I said, "David," I said, "this guy wants to buy one of these 50 packs." He says, "Follow me." He takes me in the room. He closes the deal like a magician. Unbelievable. Now, the guy who bought that package is still my client today. This is back in 2001. He's still my client. I treat him, his wife, his daughter, and his son, okay? Now, David turns to me, says, "We've had that 50 pack here in Boston for about 6 months now." He says, "You're the first person to sell one. Congratulations."
Look at that. You a
And how's
natural.
that how's that for your first day?
Right, right.
That's how it took off. And it wasn't long after that, that manager left Boston Sports Club to open his own gym, a smaller private gym. And it wasn't long after that, I got the phone call to come join him. So I come down at the small little gym now. See, at Boston Sports Club, you had all the marketing and all that done for you. All you had to do is show up. Here, you had to do everything. And this is when my manager decided that he wanted more clients, more trainers, and I had a small clientele, but they love being a private. My gym is completely private. They love being private. They could talk, they could train, they love it. So I was in a predicament. I could either stop or buy my partner out. So I bought him out, and thank goodness, because that was bad. That was 13 years ago. The office was my bedroom because I could not afford 2 rents. I lived in my gym, and I built it up, and thank goodness, because it's awesome. I love my gym. I love being able to talk with people, talk like I'm talking now. This is how I talk with them.
Right, right.
Because we're all having they love being able to hear my problem and hear their problem. Well, how are we gonna get over our problem? And how do we stay upbeat? My client said to me the other day, he said, "How can you be so happy with all that God's taken from you?" And I thought about it. And I said, "God has given me so much more than what He has taken from me. So much more. My life is awesome. It's challenging. I had troubles and everything, a lot of things, but I don't have trouble with being grateful. No troubles
I
there."
love that.
I talk about gratefulness. Remember, I talked about the judge who gave me 10 years?
Mhm.
And I said at that time I was very upset, but in prison when I seen the recidivism and all that happening, I said, he did me a favor. Instead of giving me a small slap on the wrist so I didn't learn my lesson and keep coming back and back, he taught me a lesson. I actually wrote the judge a letter from prison, and he actually wrote me back. I couldn't believe it. A judge wrote me back. I couldn't believe it. And he was like, she's like, "I knew you can do it." He gave me all the confidence. Now, that was the confidence, but on the way out of prison with $100 and a bus ticket, the guy said, "See you soon." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Oh." I said, "I'm not coming." He says, That's what they all say.
Yep.
You'll
I
be back.
yep, I think they say that to everybody that get released from prison, "See you soon."
See you soon. Imagine that, see you soon.
Right,
Never
right,
mind giving a guy a little encouragement, maybe a
right,
little,
right.
you know?
Pricks. Yeah, so would you say your experiences with these other gyms, being employed by these other gyms, was your motivation for, building your own gym, building Titanium Health and Fitness, and making the gym accessible for everybody?
Yes, indeed. But I'll tell you, the people who taught me this was the people in prison. Those street convicts in prison taught me this. Taught me that fitness is the way. And they explained to me how fitness will help your mind. They were doing multiple decades in there. They said, working out for us eases our mind. It makes everything go a little smoother. And I found out real quick. And I wanted to keep that. I want to keep that. And on top of helping me, I get to help other people. So it's a two-way street. I'm being helped all the time. My clients have no idea how much they're helping me.
Oh, that's
They come in,
therapy. That's
they have no
therapy.
idea. I,
Right.
I always think, I always hear people say, oh, I got to go to work. I love going to work. I love seeing my client at 6 in the morning, having a talk and a training session. Love that. Never say, oh, I got to go to work.
Mhm.
I'm a single father. I have a 21-year-old son that I train every day. I love spending time with my son. Love that. Love living with him. Love that. And
That's what I say.
that's what sobriety gave me, the chance to be present, to be there for my son. My father was always there for me, and I learned a lot from him. But I don't show my son any bad ways. I didn't see the bad things to my father. I just seen him hanging out with people. So this is my entrepreneurial style when I was a young kid. I see what my father did. He hung around with guys, his crew. So I put my own crew together. I was, 11 years old. And all the neighbors were my crew. We had every yard in my neighborhood. We shoveled every driveway. We had every yard. We owned my territory. I didn't know my father was doing anything illegal at this time. I just said, well, he got his friend. So I tried being like him. So it was a
Right.
legal thing for me.
Doesn't
Then
sobriety give
eventually
you
I learned
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
that it wasn't all peaches and cream. He was
Right,
doing illegal activities,
right,
and
right.
that's when my road changed, and the shoving the driveways became doing all illegal, selling fireworks, just anything to make money, hustling,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Doesn't sobriety give you so much clarity? Like, your mind is
oh,
clear and you just wanna do everything, it's like now you know your path, what you're supposed to do.
and Striker, that's why I gotta commend you. Your platform is giving people like me a chance to talk. Yeah, I might be helping your clientele, your viewers, but I know you're helping me. I know I'm not going to. I don't know what today's gonna bring, but I know I'm not going next door to the bar to sit down and have a drink.
Right,
I know
right,
that's not happening.
right. This
My
is
story's right up front. I
right.
love that. Like Friday night, I went back to the halfway house. Every Friday night, I usually go to the halfway house where I came from. I go on commitments to detox centers, and I always bring my books, and I can pass them out to people. And I, read this book. I was sitting right where you are, but I was 330 pounds in a wheelchair. Okay, so
Mhm.
you might not feel peachy and like, but it does get better. Just don't drink. You're
Yes,
not alone.
yes,
Get the help. The help
yes.
is here to offer. People love helping. In my book, you'll see all the people that entered my life to help me, from Deb to the guys in prison, to the judge, to the cops who arrested me, to my brother, to detox. There's just so many people that help me. My dogs, my dog is, oh my God, my dog Turbot is my best friend.
Oh, man.
My,
Yeah,
he's 200 pounds. He's awesome.
yeah, that is hilarious. I just right before my dog is in there whining right now, right before I got on with you, I had to put him in his cage. He's just so attached to me. It's crazy.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, yeah,
That is awesome.
yeah, yeah. And another thing I love, like, that you stand on is that no one beats addiction alone. And that goes, against what a lot of people believe. Some people believe they could just stop and just, so let's talk about that. Why is answer for help so hard?
For me, asking for help was very difficult. Now it's not so much, but it was very difficult because I had to humble myself and ask for help. And that's what Deb taught me. She said, ask for help. You're not alone. And I'll tell you, it's unbelievable. People just want to help you,
Mhm.
especially in sobriety. People just want to give back because that's how we stay sober, Striker. By me giving back to the next guy is gonna help me. It's a two-way street. It's awesome. So trust me, if you wanna get sober, just raise your hand. Humble yourself, suck in your pride, and raise your hand. Ask for help. You have to suck in your pride because a lot of people don't wanna ask for help because they don't want to suck in the pride. They got this. They can do it on their own. We don't have to do it. Well, this is a life-taking disease. Do not try doing this on your own. It's a
Yeah,
matter of life and death. We're not playing checkers here. Well,
right.
it's a matter of life and death, especially what's out there now. I remember my brother thought he was taking a Xanax. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? He thought he was
yeah.
taking a Xanax and he
Yep,
dropped dead.
yep.
You never,
Everything
you
is laced
never
with
know.
fentanyl now. Yep, yep,
The wolves, Lisa fentanyl, Xanax, what pill,
yeah,
dead.
yeah. I don't understand it at all. Like, from a dealer standpoint, why would you want to kill your customers? It doesn't
I
make
don't
sense to me.
I don't know how that happened. I still don't understand that.
Yeah, it's
I don't understand how someone can intentionally
yeah,
and take
right, right,
so when I was using, I never really had to worry about that because I didn't even heard of fentanyl when I was using.
right.
I got sober in 1992. Cocaine and those things were the big things. Fentanyl, I never even heard of. So it
Mhm,
was even before oxys and all that. So I never really got
mhm.
into those drugs. It was cocaine and alcohol for me. But
Right, right. Alcohol is dangerous. I didn't really know how dangerous alcohol was. Alcohol is really dangerous. That and benzos are the two worst things you could detox from, that you could die from, is what I learned.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
And alcohol, it's just a depression killer. When you're feeling bad and you can have a couple drinks,
right.
it might not, but your problems don't go away. You might forget about them for an hour or two, but
Yep,
they're just gonna be right
yep,
there,
yep.
worse and worse
Soon
and
as you wake
worse.
up, yep. Soon as you wake up.
And then it's just a living hell. I was so broken when I was in that wheelchair when I got out of jail before I went to detox. I never felt so broken and alone. Like I just wanted to go. I felt hopeless.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book real quick, John. I love the name, the title, Triggered to Change. Your book, like the title says everything. What was your trigger, the real one? Was it the shooting or
The
was it
trigger
jail?
was the actual one
Right,
that put
right,
the bullet in my head.
right, 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 right. I get that. Because people think change is gradual, but sometimes it's one moment, one realization, one breaking point. So
That was it right there for me, boy.
right, that was your breaking point. Right.
That was the first breaking point.
Mhm.
That's when but the second breaking point was when the cops kicked in my door and arrested me, and I felt relief. I wasn't upset. I'm in trouble. I felt relief. I was happy this was happening. They couldn't understand it. They just couldn't understand that was a good thing for me. For
Right,
me.
right, right. Sometimes, you gotta hit rock bottom, be beneath the bottom to, really change. At least I know
Yeah,
I
but
did.
you can get off the elevator on any floor, Struck. You don't have to go all the way to the bottom. You can get off any time. You
Yeah.
don't have to wait till you get shot in the head.
Right, right.
You can get off before that.
Right, exactly. So right now, John, someone is watching this, and they feel stuck, guaranteed, ashamed, broken, like it's too late. What do you want to say to them?
First of all, it's never too late. If you just look at me, I look at other people that are worse off shape than me, and I say, how the hell can I cry about what I'm going through? So if I can do it, you can do it. And I'll tell you right now, it's a mindset. Put your mind to it. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't quit. You can do this. I had 2 little girls. When I got sober, I had my 2 little girls, and I'm not saying that's the total reason why I got sober, but that was a big aspect in my mind was to be there for them. Now I have my 21-year-old son, and he's never seen me drink and never seen me drug, and I'm always there for him. He don't have to question if I'm gonna show up or I'll be there. He knows I got his back. He
Mhm.
knows if he has any kind of problem, that he has an open dialogue with me. Talk it with me. I'll help you. You're not alone. You can ask your father for any kind of help. I'll never turn my back on you. And he believes that, and he knows that, and he lives that.
And I know he's very, very proud to have a dad like you. That's awesome. So, John, final question. This platform is built on one truth. We're all recovering. Right here on my shirt.
There you go, buddy.
So I want to ask you this. What are you still recovering from today?
What am I still recovering from today is grief. Right now, I'm recovering from grief. It definitely plays things with your mind. I do things wrong, I'm feeling sorry, and that's all. I'm fighting that, but I know that I'm not alone, that I can call Deb, I can call my other friends and talk. I have my clients I can talk with. I don't have to hide anything to them. Like, I'm gonna tell you this one real quick story. When I opened my gym, I couldn't tell people my whole story was in the I was in jail, I was shot in the head, they'd run. I want them to join my gym, and if I told them that, they would leave. So I came up with the story, but I didn't wanna lie. I told them I was shot in the head in a hunting accident.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a lie because I was shot in the head. I just left out the part that I was the one being hunted by the guy. So I left it out. But eventually you start trusting your clients. Like I see my clients 3 or 4 times a week, for months and months and months. So you build a rapport with them. And you start divulging a little bit about your story. Before my story, now it's out, so they all know. But years ago, I had this is how my TikTok came in, because I would tell my client little bits of my story over time, and finally she said, "Oh my god," she said, "I thought you were just in a car accident." She said, "I had no idea. You have to do a TED Talk." And now I had no idea, and she brought me to the meeting, and I left the meeting, and I looked and I said, "Deb, what the hell did you get me involved with here? I can't do this." She said, "You're not alone. I'll help you. Don't say you can't do this." And, I remember doing my TED Talk, and I got a standing ovation for my first time speaking, and that's what led me to write Triggered to Change, because I knew I needed to tell my story more.
Right,
So
right,
I came out with my book and, you know
right. I'll add to that, people need a good support network. It sounds like you have a great support network,
Oh,
right? So you need that to actually, I know for me, I needed that to help me with, keep going, keep pushing, somebody to call and, to stay sober. I just needed someone I could just reach out to when I was feeling like, that urge or, so a good support network is always good. So, John, brother, I appreciate you, not just for your story, but for your honesty from a gunshot to the head, to addiction, to prison, to purpose, to being the last one standing and still choosing to help others. Thank you, brother. That's war. And to
oh,
everybody
awesome,
watching,
weapon.
yes, sir. And to everybody watching, stop waiting. There's no perfect time. There's only right now. This is war. We're all recovering. Each one reach one. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
The invasion of Iraq is a good time to take stock. Since the war began, 3,192 U.S. troops have been killed, more than 24,000 wounded. At least 50,000 Iraqi civilians have died.
It's war.